I'd like to call to order the Capital Improvement Committee meeting of Monday, March 20th at 2 PM. First thing on our agenda is to review and discuss capital projects. So we have them in order. I'm going to have public building maintenance. Adam, you want to come up?
Yep.
You can take one of these chairs. You can take any chair you want, doesn't matter.
Stay right. Thank you.
If I could interrupt you real quick. We don't know yet what our actual capital budget is. I don't know if it stays where it is, if it goes up, goes down, or whatever, so we don't know what it is. What we're doing now is the departments that are coming before us is just to look at, so they can reevaluate what their needs are for 2024, and I'm also looking to try to create the 2028. So in unison with the special stabilization account that we created, that's actually 5 years out. So I'll be looking to the fire department to tell us what the approximate value of the truck that would be going on there, so that way we earmark that into that spot to try to get that program moving where it needs to move to. And other than that, I'm going to leave it to Adam so he can go through what he needs to do.
Sure. So for this year, the request for the building maintenance, I have number one is an elevator, the roof of the elevator wing at $90,000. Again, that houses the first and second floor lobbies, and that was put on in 1997, I believe, by the school department when they did the renovation there. We've got a few leaks, we keep patching it, and we're doing hopefully doing the main roof this year, so that was my number one project. And current condition is fair, and again, this was around $90,000 was the estimate we received. And I spend about $1,200 a year patching the roof at the moment, just trying to stop the leaks that are happening. I don't want to keep going. Do you want me to keep rolling, or do you want me to stop for each one?
Well, I just wondering what you're going on, because I couldn't find, okay.
Okay,
So
this
you
is-
didn't- We don't have any description.
Okay.
You've done-
I did my description. I didn't know, this is just all, I think all we had to submit was this,
Well, if
correct?
you just blurb out your
Right.
description in one sentence, that's good.
Okay, so, okay, so that was, is that what you have? Okay.
So you're
You're
spending.
going off this.
This is, we'll
Yeah,
stop for a
okay.
second.
Yeah,
What we use it for, just for a basis, so we can have some semblance of order to it, is we have our proposed 4-year plan now that was submitted with last year's, at the Maytown meeting. So the item that you just talked about was the roof, and that is on the list. Has that maintained the same value?
Correct. Yes, at this time, it's still at this point, it hasn't gone up or down. We did have a buffer in there. Again, this would have to be designed by an architect, so, but it has approximate the same value. Again, it's a smaller roof, so I believe we should be in good shape and on that number.
Yeah. Before you jump on to the next one, so the goal is if you have something that's new to the
Okay.
5-year plan, at least point it out so then we can understand what it is, otherwise we're gonna keep going back and forth in each item.
Let's see. So I don't see on here the windows, the first and second floor lobby windows in my, I have my last year's list, maybe that'll help.
Yeah, it's probably on your list, but this isn't, you probably don't have the windows on,
Because it was on last year's on the first one for 25,000, so I just
that's
wanted.
on yours, right?
Yeah, this is what my last year, what I
That's
presented.
your list. This
Yeah.
is, this.
Yeah, I didn't know where.
This is the town
Okay,
warrant, so that's what actually got approved.
okay,
Lobby windows is in fiscal year.
28, okay,
Actually, we have 28, 27.
yeah.
3, 4.
So, yeah, I had it in 23 last year, but again, so I had municipal first and second floor lobby windows. I had a cost of $30,000, which Mike has on FY 2028 in the flyer. 25,000, yeah. It's 30 now, yeah.
So if you want to put next to your note that it's on fiscal 28, just so
28,
you
all right.
understand where it's been,
Okay,
where it's on the list.
okay. All right, so, again, those windows, just to talk about them quick, they're the lobby windows as you're coming in from the gym. You can see the seams are all letting go, and it's all foggy, it's got water inside. We first originally talked about replacing all the window itself. Actually, all we really need to do is replace the glass, which is where they went from like 125,000 down to 30, which was great, so, and we found someone who was willing to do it for that. Okay, the next one I have is municipal center key system, and I know that's on the first one for 38,000. So, long story, Blackstone Valley Lock was our key company that had Cava Peaks, which the gentleman who owned that company ended up passing away many, I want to say now it's probably 10 years ago. This is the system when I came in that was here at the town hall. The company got bought by one of the employees, which was great. Thought we were going to be all set. He ends up having COVID at 42 years old and dies. So we're back to the same situation we're in, where we don't have our key records, can't have keys. I can drive to South Boston and have one key made, or we can try to start changing over to something that's more easily accessible. The one company I talked to, we would own our own key system, it would be certain types of keys, so we wouldn't go through this again, and that's what I'm more looking for. That price was $38,000. We'll be the first floor, second floor, gym, just this building, not the police station. It would just be here. And there is a chance this could be less. I'm working with another vendor right now who doesn't want to replace all the locks and the handles, they just want to replace the cylinders, which is the little key thing in the middle. So if they can do that, then this could be a lot less. I'm working on that at the moment at the same time. He's a new vendor, he's from Douglas. He's a one-man operation, which I then don't have to pay prevailing wage, which is why I do what I do. So that's why I'm working with him right now to try to get a lower price than this. So that was number 3 for $38,000. Number 4 is the municipal HVAC units. So we had funding a few years ago. They gave us $50,000 to start replacing the ones on the roof. So we did the 2 units on the roof. It actually went right up to $50,000 for 2 out of the 4. We only have 2 running on the roof, not 4. But we were down to 1. The heat exchangers all rotted out. We hadn't replaced any in a long time. We were trying to wait to get the money for all of them. We never did. So we went forward. Once we were down to 1 unit, we went forward and replaced 2. So that way we could have 2 up and running.
What do you have for a value on that?
I have $200,000, but the original value, before we added them together, I had $85,000.
Right,
Yeah,
because that's what I'm
correct.
saying, in
Yep.
fiscal year 2025, we have it
Correct.
as a line item for 25, and now it is what?
I have 200,000. And the reason is we added the 2 units that were missing, plus we had 2 separate articles on here at one time. We had the elevator unit, the 2 roof units, they were all separate. They were just like a separate breakout. And so what I ended up doing was reaching out to, I just want to find my notes here, reaching out to Renard, who we use for the town, and they gave me a little bit of a breakdown for these units. So the 3 AC units are like $120,000 just for these 3 AC units down here, because they're the old refrigerant, they're the old style, they're almost 30 years old. So we haven't replaced them since they put them in, I'm assuming.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
So you just said 120,000, was this original HVAC units the first floor, or was that including the rooftops as well?
That was, so now that's including it, wasn't
No, before.
Yeah, before it was not.
All right.
Correct. So this was a separate
Just
thing.
for clarity.
Basically, yeah, and since I did some on the roof already, I just ended up putting these all together because we're at the point we only have 2 running. If we decide to renovate upstairs and we're going to use it, we're going to need 4 to run, not 2. And then we're going to need the elevator one to start working again too. So I have the 3 down here. The IT room, I just replaced half out of my budget. So we had to replace that one because it was failing. And so it became an emergency, and we had to do it right away. So that was around $12,000. So that is FY '24. I don't want to go any further. Like I have 25, 26, 7, and then we talked about 28. I know we discussed, so I don't know how we want to go.
So let's just talk about the 24. You put these all on the priority for 24. were they always on a high priority?
Correct. The HVAC units, I added those. As I said, I took
Yeah.
the leftover and just added it to this one list, so we didn't have two separate. But everything else I've had on here, well, my 23 has all these on here. The only thing that was funded last year was the parking lot for the senior center post office, which, again, we're hoping to get someone involved and get going on that this year.
The most important thing for us is in 2024, obviously, we have to have that straightened out. And I prefer some consistency through our opinions as we go from year to year. But I don't think it's necessary for us to go through, we can take your list to use for our grading portion of it, I guess, for the remaining years, unless there's something that's changed from what it was before, if any of the values have changed. I know that your sidewalk tractor, that went up because
Yep.
it was an added attachment to it.
Correct.
And your dump truck went up.
Correct.
That jumped quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's on,
That's on highway. I don't, are we go with building maintenance? I just want to stop.
yeah, no, I know that.
Okay.
I know that,
Yeah.
because you're stuck in both
Yeah,
seats.
that's fine.
I kind of drifted
No problem.
off
That's
that.
no, it's okay.
Thanks for bringing me back.
No problem.
It's just difficult trying to figure out.
Oh, yeah,
how
I
we're
understand
gonna-
that.
How we're going to accomplish these goals as what we're doing. All right, so I think unless somebody else wants to hear the complete list from Adam for the subsequent years coming up, we can have him talk about highway. It's a little keys in it. Yeah, so that's the only things that you had on
Yep.
that year for building maintenance.
Just,
Yep, go ahead.
if I may, Adam, you said something about you were paying about around $1,200 a month or a year for the elevator wing roof.
So, yeah, every month I get it patched, yeah, I have constant leaks on it, yeah. So it's about $1,200 a month. I have the guy come up, we patch the main roof, and then I have him, that's a different price than I have him patch the elevator roof at the same time while he's here. So we always find little tears. It's just starting to weather out,
Sure.
dry out, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So,
Does anybody else have anything for Adam on building? Before we send them into highway, one thing that I did ask Lisa to do for us after the last meeting was to reach out all the departments that have submitted the capital requests to give us their master list instead of having Lisa try to compile it and do it in and she sent them an Excel attachment so they can do it that way. So that way we can actually get it to a point so we know that this pen went on in 2017 and it's still there. So just, it may help us as
Good
a
idea.
committee to,
that's my list.
it's very confusing with all these papers, but if we had a master list, it would be a lot more helpful.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing, that's mine, that I sent
Yep.
back to Lisa.
Yep.
So-
You
Okay.
want to move into highway,
Yep.
Adam?
Highway, absolutely. So, Highway Department, so we still have the garage on here, we've had it on here for many years, so that's always just stays on there. Which it sounds like we've hired we're hiring an engineer, we're close, which is good. So that was always on there. I'm gonna go into paving, so this year for FY '24, our goal is to pave South Street from number 179 to Hemlock Street. The paving's gonna cost around $600,000 without the drainage. The drainage will be on top of that in engineering. Currently, we have enough funds to start the engineering right now, which is what we want to do. We want to start now so we can hopefully pave and do the drainage this year. So as of July 1st, John will receive another $360,000 from Chapter 90. That's what we have as of right now. We spent a lot of money last year. It was great. We divvied up a lot throughout town. small sections that we really needed to get done. So we definitely appreciate the funding through the capital committee last year.
Do you have a rough idea on how much road you actually paved? Like,
John probably would, I
Yeah.
don't. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me. I know it was like over $1 million that we paid. We did.
And Adam, what road?
So South Street, this year?
Yes, that's,
South Street, yep, from number 179 to Hemlock Street. That's our goal. It's a really rough section. It's on a really, a main road, but it's really rough. But we wanted to address it before, but the drainage issue is what's coming to play. While we're doing this, we need to fix some drain pipes. They're old metal pipes. There's some some drop inlets that need to be replaced. So we have Stan Tech coming in to design the system, which we're actually meeting with them on Thursday, so we can start that process, and then we can replace the drain pipes right down the road. There's about 10 spots that have to be done, and then it's got to settle a little bit, and then we can pave it. So that's going to cost us a good amount of money on this one. That'll be all that we get done this year if we can do it. So that's paving. Go ahead. Yep.
So on this paper, we just have the, excuse me, 360,000, which is the Chapter 90 plus.
so, yeah.
This
so-
is the amount we're putting aside.
Yeah, so I think last year you got 363,000 from Chapter 90.
This year we're getting 360.
We matched it, or somewhat matched it to 360.
Okay.
That, along with, they also get some funds for crack sealing and
Yeah.
potholes and whatnot, that they compiled it all to do the work that they're doing. But last year, we started something a little different, that
Yeah.
we proposed the 360 for Chapter 90, the 100,000 for the special stabilization account, for the large apparatus purchases for the fire department. Got that up.
Thank you.
So number 2 on our list.
oh, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
So you, and matching the 360? Or that was part of your sentence?
No, so Chapter 90, from the state, they get 360,000. We took, last year we did it, and it's on our list going forward for each year to put 360,000 out of free cash
To match it?
to help them.
Yeah.
So now they get 720, so they could actually do something. So to put it in, to try to understand where 700,000 would go, from the intersection of South Street on Southwest Main Street to Wallen Lake Road cost you 700,000. And that was a few years back. So it doesn't go very far, but they're not going to get anything done with 360. They're going to be doing little tiny things. You actually did a section of Vine Cemetery,
Correct.
Northwest Main Street, and any other streets
Yeah,
besides that? like-
Northwest Main, Southwest Main, the furthest down,
Yeah,
Southwest Main,
right,
yep.
yep, down towards
So,
Connecticut, you did some of
yeah,
that.
we did over $1 million.
So they get quite a bit accomplished by this committee suggesting that we put the 360 forward towards that. We're in drastic need of fixing up some of these roads, at least. It was strange to ride down Northwest Main Street the first time coming back from the store and not be going bouncing all the way down the street. So
I agree.
we do appreciate your effort.
Yes, thank you. Number 2 was an international dump truck with plow and sander, 265,000. I don't know what you had for a price.
215.
215. The prices are through the roof this year with all the trucks. They're at least a year out minimum. If you order them today, we won't see them till a year from now. That's what they're telling us. It was the same with our sidewalk tractor, with anything, any kind of equipment you want. You're waiting a year and a half before you get them. The prices have fluctuated. They gave us a price of 255. 255 was back, let's see, what are we, back in December. And it said it's only going to go up even more. They told us, be ready for the new year, the new prices.
And
So we-
that's the same spec, no?
Yep, same spec, nothing different, no changes. It's that's just what happened, they've gone up that much.
So,
265 is what I asked.
260.
Correct, yeah, so 250, we'll put in a little bit of a buffer, but we also need a radio, take the radio out of the old truck, put it in the new truck, stuff like that. We have to hire someone to do all that, but the buffer that we have is 10,000 is what we're using right now, and we're hoping they come down and we're wrong and we turn back money, but fortunately, I doubt it, the way things are going. But that's going to replace a 2001 truck. Our trucks have lasted, this is one of the worst trucks we have. We have two of them, our H3 and our H6, and they're both 2001s. We've taken the dump body off of one of them, and we've made a flat body and put it on, because our trucks, it's rotting out so bad. Number 3 is our sidewalk tractor. So last year, we asked for, I'm just going to
170.
170, but we also, in our requests, put in for a separate machine to do brush cutting on the roads, and that was 174 for FY, that was, hold on, I gotta find my sheet there. And that was back in, that was gonna be in FY '25. We asked for a brush cutting tractor with side mower for $174,000.
So would you want it in 25 or 24?
So, well, we're gonna eliminate that brush cutting mower. That's what we did. We took off the 174 and we added 40,000 to our sidewalk tractor. Now we found one piece of equipment that could be a dual use. So with the sidewalk tractor's not sitting during the spring, summer, fall, we can now use it on the roads and also plow with it in the winter. So, and we've eliminated the other tractor completely. So we basically, like I said, have saved out like 134,000 by adding 40,000 to this machine. And now this machine, it'll be slower, it'll take us longer. But last year, just for reference, we spent $27,000 on brush cutting, it didn't do half the town. So that's just where we're at. So we're trying to, it may take us a little longer, but our guys can do it. We can do it more in-house, and we can take it away from worrying about someone else. And the machine's not sitting there. Like, right now, that sidewalk tractor's great. It's beat up and it's used, but there's nothing, it doesn't do anything after winter. It sits all spring, summer, fall. This one, we could send out and start brush cutting.
And we did have a subcontractor that was doing the brush cutting before?
Correct, yep.
And no longer does it?
There's one, the one we did last year was 27,000. We had to go, we went out on a state bid list and tried to find someone. We're having a real hard time finding people to do this kind of work. A lot of towns have moved to this, either getting a John Deere tractor for the 174,000 or adding to their sidewalk tractor and trying to send them out, their own guys doing it. So we figured this would be a great opportunity for us to take that back, and then in the end, like I said, wouldn't need the 27,000 every year also.
How much was it?
So with this combination
210.
that you've worked up,
Yep.
that's the 218,000?
Yeah, 218,000.
Oh, 218?
Yeah, 218.
So it was actually 48,000.
Yeah, 48,000. It went up $8,000 in price, and it was a $40,000 mower attachment that
Okay.
goes on it. So that was number 3. Number 4 is lawnmowers. So we have three lawnmowers. One's a 1996, one's a 2004, and one's a 2005. Since 2008, we inherited the ball fields, we inherited all the commons, the building maintenance stuff, the highway department mows everything. So those 3 mowers are our frontline pieces that we use. So the 96 is in really tough shape. It's left down the ball fields. Anyone who, like, if the recreation department needs to mow, that's the mower they use. But we were hoping to take the 2005, put that down there, and get ourselves 2 mowers that we can mow here. We pick up leaves with them, all the municipal commons, the ball fields. So that's what we're looking for, and that's $29,000 for 2 mowers with bagger systems.
And they're not on our current 5-year plan.
They weren't on there either? It was on last year, too.
Or it may have been a request. It didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
It didn't
exactly.
make
Okay.
this list.
Okay. And the last one I have for,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
actually,
You got one?
is this it?
No, that's the other one we eliminated. That's the one we're going to eliminate now. That one you can take right off of that one, yep. Because if we get the brush attachment for that sidewalk right there, then we don't need that one.
So you did have one on FY '26, right?
Yeah, that's the one, that's the second line item, the highway department brush cutting tractor with the side mower. That's the one he was referring to, that's going to be eliminated with the attachment for the sidewalk
Okay.
tractor.
But the one
40,000.
that's fourth from the bottom is still in effect on FY '26?
That one's get fourth from the bottom. 1, 2, 3.
37.
for 37,000,
On FY,
26.
all right. Highway Department lawnmower.
Okay, so there's the mowers, okay. That's 37,000, okay.
Is that for 2 or 1?
That's for 2. Yep. So I have it as 29,000 on here. So that, they changed models and they updated, it went down on this. We have a bagger system with them, but it went to 29,000, not 37.
Are you still going for the gas mowers, not any
Correct.
battery?
Yeah, no, right now it's still gas. Yeah, right now, at this point. Unfortunately, we see a lot of things with batteries, and Kelly can attest with the fires and different things right now until they kind of get that straightened out. I'm
Yeah.
more apt not to want to do that at the moment and burn the highway garage down. So, I mean, maybe, I don't know, well, I can't say it on camera, but anyway. So the last request for FY #24 is signed message boards. This was not on your request. This was not on anything that you have. We have a 2006 message board. You'll see it down on Lackey Dam, up Gilboa Street right now. It's not working right now. I have to go back and fix it. It doesn't keep charge anymore. We replaced the batteries. The solar panels, are faded out, I think, and the charging system needs to be replaced. So with all this construction, I guess we didn't forecast this enough to see that we should have a couple of them. But we've gotten that one, we can keep it running for now, but we looked into a price, it's $45,000 for 2 of them, for message boards to have that. We did request and discuss this with the water sewer superintendent, and he was talking about putting this in with, they're talking about some project on Upper North Street that's gonna tie into like Pines Pit, and he was gonna put this in with that project. So this could be funded separately. So that's why I'm kind of, I want it on there, so you know what's on there, but if they get it through the grant funds that they're putting for that project, then we won't need this. Because that's where those signs are gonna go. They're gonna be on Upper North Street until they're done that project, and that's basically part of the projects, and then we'll inherit them for everything else that we need when they're done. But I don't know, like, I just wanted to put it on the radar. The other one we have is a 2006, we received it through a grant, and it's been working good. We've replaced the charging system once, back in 2000, I want to say it's 2010 or 11, it caught fire, it melted a little bit, so we replaced the charging system and the batteries, and it's, like I said, it's worked up until last year, but I think we're using it a lot more with this construction project, so it just doesn't last like it should.
And that was from 9/11?
Homeland Security, yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
so
that's
it
what.
was a freebie.
Freebie, yep, absolutely, yep. That and the light tower that we have, both from Homeland Security.
Does Homeland Security give?
Not anymore. No, we tried. We were looking into it. We were hoping the same thing, but not at the moment, yeah. So that's the FY '24 portion of this. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Is there, so all the other stuff is further out, so.
All the other stuff is further out.
So we can look at that through our grading process, unless there's something that's changed monetarily. Everything's
The dump trucks,
The same price.
the dump trucks, like I said, went up to 50,000, like you know.
Yep.
The backhoe, the new quote on the backhoe was 217. I don't know if you have that.
I have that on there somewhere.
I know it's on there. Every year we reach out and get new quotes.
Backhoe is 217, so that's in fiscal year '28,
Okay,
217.
yep.
But on this paper, it's on,
On mine, yeah, we've moved it up.
I'm going by what we put through at the town meeting, so.
Yeah. And the loader with the is 280,000. I don't know if that's on there.
I have it somewhere. All right, so 280, that went up
Yep.
50. That's on
Correct.
fiscal year '25.
6.
Yeah.
What, the John Deere loader?
Little plow, yeah.
What year is that?
We, 25 on your sheet, yep. So on my sheet, it was 20, it's 25. We flipped the backhoe, and the reason the backhoe went up, unfortunately, this is another piece of equipment that sits outside.
Yeah.
And we've had to put a lot of money into it recently, but again, hopefully, if we have a highway garage and this all gets inside, you're not gonna see as much like this.
What's the cost of that?
The loader?
Yeah.
280,
280.
that's the new prices.
Because it was on the list as.
230.
230, correct. Seems like that's a standard, they must all go up the same 50,000 every time you're asking for something.
Or at least from your calculation.
Yeah, my calculations, my guesstimates. But everything else is further out than that. We've added a grader. We're hoping not to need it on our list for FY '26. Our grader's just, it's starting to rot out. It's a 1995. We don't grade a lot of roads, but we are going to need it unless something changes and we decide to start paving some of the dirt roads. But a lot of them are like different private roads and, besides Orange Street is up,
So you
scenic
had the
road.
grader in what year?
The grader's not on your list at all.
Okay.
So that we put that on FY '26 for $434,000. That's a price from John Deere.
So we had 2 plow trucks.
Correct. Both of those. So 24 and 25 have trucks. It's for $265. Those are replacing both our 2001 trucks, H3 and H6. And we welcome you to come by, see any of our equipment, please do. Please stop by if you want to see it again. We have no
Can we
problem
turn
showing
these
it.
things down for the meeting, please? I understand Kelly needs to undo, but it's a little distracting. So we don't have that other plow truck on this list at all. You have a request for 25?
Yeah, that was so, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, just on
See, I
this-
don't-
just on
yeah,
this
I
list.
keep- yeah, so there should be 2. For both of one,
We're going to have quite the challenge ahead of us on,
So you're saying the
these things.
265 is for 2?
it's for one. One
One
truck,
truck.
it should be 2 consecutive years.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
it's on 4 years.
It's-
There's one on
I have, yeah,
24, 25,
correct.
26, and
I have, on my list itself, it has four different ones in my 5 years. We have 4 trucks. But on the sheet that Mike's going off of, it looks like it wasn't on.
well, it's what was voted at town meeting.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm
correct.
using as a master sheet. Because if I go by individual department sheets, it's going to confuse us. So if we're trying to,
So if they're not on this one, the capital improvement plan, 24, 28?
so what we put through the town meeting, it was approved for one of them in '24, and I can't find the second one. So what Adam is requesting is for '25, so all I'm doing is I'm just making notes on this, so then I can hopefully figure it out after this meeting. Anything else?
That's it.
That's it? You're out easy?
That's it, nice and easy.
Appreciate you coming in. Anybody have any questions for Adam on any of this stuff?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, I thought he was going to say something. Come on up, Kelly. You can have either seat, whatever. You can take that one if you want.
Going to give you guys a quick handout.
So we don't have any, so this is, we don't need to have anything, right?
So I don't know what you guys have already been given, and I'm not sure, I know there were some discrepancies between what you guys had on your list for those folks, so we can clarify that. and we
Yep,
can talk
yep.
about it.
There was a submission that was put in last month, and
One,
Chief Vincent actually
Yep, there's 2 different,
went through the list.
take one of each and pass it down. I think everything for FY '24 is correct.
Yeah. Shirley, could you just spin that microphone a little bit, just so Stephanie can make sure we get her minutes?
Mike,
Sorry,
you
Kelly.
need these?
Excuse me?
Do you need this?
Yeah.
did you get one of these?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Right down the driveway.
So are we using Ken's, what Kent had presented before or not? I'm just trying to see whether I should look through my
Yeah.
pile of papers for what Kent had put in. Or are you, Kelly?
So I'm speaking on behalf of Ken. I know he had presented some items. I'm not sure exactly which items you guys are looking for me to maybe have a more in-depth conversation about. What I have on my list for FY24 is car one, the 2018 ambulance to be replaced, forestry replacement equipment, and our bay doors. So, do you want me to just go through that
Yeah,
list of
just
items?
let me catch up with you.
Yeah,
I
sure.
got all messed up with my papers.
Okay,
I was trying to figure out where I was at real
You're
quick.
not alone. We're all shuffling.
because he gave me this other packet, and there's a bunch of items in here that we've already addressed through other funding mechanisms, so
Yep. Okay, in fiscal year '24, what is it you would like to address? For '24?
So I can just start at the top and talk about car one, the replacement of the chief's command vehicle. And the two handouts that I gave you are based for that discussion. So I'll just have you guys flip to the first page, which talks about car one, which is the chief's car, the maintenance costs. So essentially, we're requesting to replace the fire chief's car, which is a 2014 Ford Explorer, which is a mid-size SUV. Currently, the vehicle is used as a fast vehicle. It can get to the scene ahead of a fire truck or an ambulance to begin assessment of an emergency, as well as direct some incoming units. It contains fire extinguishers and other equipment that allows the operator to knock down a fire or personal protective equipment so we can immediately move a victim out of a hazardous environment. In reference to the discussion at the last Select Board meeting on March 7th, I just wanted to really talk about during my discussion here that this vehicle directly supports the ambulance department, as it contains a lot of medical equipment, including oxygen and other life-saving medications such as EpiPens, glucose, Narcan. It also contains an AED or defibrillator. At the end of the day, the chief's vehicle is almost 10 years old. You can see that the maintenance costs have increased every year. And if we look at every 3 years, the average cost of maintenance more than triples. It needs to be replaced. If it has a catastrophic breakdown or even gets in an accident, like strikes a deer and we lose use of it, we have no backup at all. We really need 2 new cruisers, one for myself, but we were just trying to get one and then get another year or 2 out of the chief's old cruiser for me to use. But even more so, I think it's worthy of the discussion to talk about how sort of the landscape has changed in healthcare, and again, why it directly supports the ambulance department. We have like several things, us and other fire agencies that provide emergency medical services, things working against us right now. As you know, the hospitals are very full. Oftentimes our personnel are stuck waiting to deliver a patient, and they might be stuck out at UMass or Milford for upwards of 60 minutes or longer, which means that there's a delay in getting them back to town. And our mutual aid requests are indicative of this. So our neighboring communities, they can't get back to town either, so that we're going over to provide EMS service for them because they can't get back to town in a timely manner. So in 2021, we went mutual aid 15 times, and then in 2022, as people started to go to the hospital again, we did mutual aid 60 times. So the ambulances just can't get back to town. So these command vehicles are sort of a stopgap measure where we can get on scene, assess a patient. Oftentimes, we do that while our ambulance is coming back from the city or coming back from Milford. They'll respond back to town while myself or the fire chief is taking care of that patient, or while we're waiting a mutual aid ambulance to come. And in those cases, I've had to administer an EpiPen to a patient who was having an allergic reaction, for example, while we waited our ambulance to come back from Milford Hospital. So we're talking about people's lives intervening while we're waiting for those services to come. And right now, as you know, people are leaving healthcare in droves. They're leaving fire and police. There's just not the demand to join these professions. And right now, we're down to 4 full-time paramedics, and 2 of them are myself and the fire chief. There's no other paramedics that live in town other than myself or the fire chief. Most of the time, him and I are off doing different things. As you know, right now, he's at a fire. I'm at this meeting, or I could be out doing an inspection. And us not being together is a problem because there's only one car. And in the middle of the night, when one of our other paramedics. There's certain instances where we need to respond to help our on-duty staff, where we're required to put 2 medics at a patient during the initial assessment. So if we get a call for something serious like a heart attack or a breathing problem or an allergic reaction or an overdose, per our affiliation agreement with our medical director, which is the doctor that oversees our service, we're required to send 2 paramedics. And he has a car and I'm using my personal vehicle, so I get in my car and I respond from home, or if it happens to be here, I'm gonna get in my car and respond wherever I need to go. And again, my personal vehicle is outfitted with all the same medical equipment that the chief has that we've purchased through the budget process over the last couple of fiscal years. So with that being said, we really need that second car in order to make sure our ambulance is supported, the patients in town who need care are supported because of the way the healthcare landscape kind of looks right now and the way our staffing is right now, where we're having trouble recruiting people. In terms of the fire side of it, most of our full-time staff has an average tenure of about 2 years, so it's extremely important that somebody experienced gets to the scene of an emergency ahead of the fire truck or an ambulance to start to begin assessment and direct those incoming units, just because they don't have the tenure. It's nothing against them, they just don't have experience or they're new to town. And like I said, oftentimes the chief and I are just in different places during the day, or he has a day off, or I have a day off, and it's totally not uncommon for us to even be in an emergency. Like I could be at this brush fire with the chief right now, and then we get another call and I can break away and deal with that other emergency. So that's just kind of something that's changed in the last year versus another time we might have presented this
It's
car.
not that you always need it, but you need it when you need it.
You need it when you need it, and we've talked about having to tow stuff and how we only have 1 vehicle. We'll have 2 shortly that can tow something, but we have 2 fire department boats, a dive trailer, a whole bunch of stuff we may need to tow at the same time.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but
No, but it's reality.
it is. And then if we had the 2 new command vehicles, again, we're only asking for 1, but we could eliminate about $7,000 worth of mileage. And then we'd take this very old car that, as you can see, the maintenance is getting expensive, and kind of downgrade it to a more non-emergency role, like getting the lieutenants out to do inspections. And I'll tell you, with all the development in town, the inspections are mounting between all these buildings. So I'm going out again and doing a lot of those. So really the consequence of not replacing the vehicle is we just might not be able to get to somebody in a timely fashion. If the chief's vehicle gets damaged, we lose use of it. And my vehicle right now, it's not equipped properly with emergency warning devices, which means that basically when I'm driving to an emergency, a lot of the time I'm actually driving in traffic, which quite honestly stinks. I want to get there, I want to save your life, I want to help you. I got into the business of, helping people, and when I'm trying to get there in traffic because I have 1 light and no siren, that doesn't feel good to me, and that's not good. That could result in an outcome not being good. So it's similar to like the police downgrading some of their older cruisers to put drone equipment in, or the dog in. It's just very difficult to use your personal vehicle for those functions. So as you know, I actually bought a vehicle just to use for work because I really wouldn't have use of it as a personal vehicle with all the stuff I have in it for work. And the cost of the vehicle is about $60,000, or if we lease purchase it, it's about $13,631 a year for 5 years. In the past, we have lease purchased, so the cruiser before the one that the chief's driving, which was a 2004 Ford Explorer, was purchased by Chief Gonier. It was a lease purchase, and it was purchased using ambulance receipts, and again, that's a direct reflection of how the vehicle has supported the ambulance department. So I know that there was some concern of the funding source we were requesting being ambulance receipts for appropriation at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, but that's because that has been used in the past to make this purchase because it directly supports the ambulance and hasn't happened in a long time. So 2004, that's almost 20 years ago, and I think that maybe people just weren't aware of that. So at the time, that vehicle cost $30,000, and they made 5 annual payments of $6,000. So like I said, we just want to get to your emergency and save your life, keep our staff members safe, and I think the cost is reasonable to be able to do that. The second handout,
One minute.
yeah,
On the blurb that I guess Kent gave us, it talks in here about car 1 request, and then it talks about car 3. So are you car 3?
I am car 3.
So there is no car 2?
That's just a designation of her number, because you have, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but you have the chief, the deputy chief, and the assistant chief. So that's how the card get numbered that way. It's more for their understanding, car 3 is en route, so they know that Kelly is coming.
The deputy chief, as you know, is part-time on call, so this isn't his main function, and he's not a paramedic.
But it's just a label.
It's a label, it's a radio
Is what I'm getting
designation.
at.
Yeah, essentially,
It's a label
yes.
so they know who it is, instead of saying, Kelly Manning's on the
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
Car 3's coming.
Yeah.
It's quicker.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Quicker for Brandon when he's on the radio.
What was the
Then I-
on there, Kelly, was
$60,000 or $13,631 for a 5-year annual payment for 5 years.
Ellie, you had a question?
Yeah, I just, in this request, I don't know if I should say anything or not,
Well, that's
but it
what we're
says in
here
it
for, so.
that, or it talks about cruisers. I always think of the police department having cruisers. I don't think of the fire department as having cruisers.
Well, because if they say,
So I like car 1, 2, and 3, so.
yeah, if they say trucks, then you'd be trying to figure out which truck. So the cruiser is their smaller vehicle that they would use to be going back and forth to.
Yeah, but still,
emergencies.
I just, all of a sudden cruiser popped
Yeah.
out on page
Yeah.
2, and I thought,
The chief uses that terminology. It can also be referred to as a command vehicle or an SUV, a command SUV.
or just pick a name. I like car 1, 2, and
Yep.
3, that's simple.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
simple, too. Okay, that's it.
But to agree with Kelly, a command vehicle would help understand it real quick, because as soon as you say cruiser, you go to police department.
Yeah.
And you just gravitate towards that because of the terminology.
So where is car 1 in past, I don't see
It
it.
keeps
in-
coming up, it hasn't.
We didn't bring it to the capital process.
Well, no, this is for,
Ken brought it. The last time he has
Yeah.
one on there.
yeah.
He came with a whole list of things and he read through them.
Oh, the recently.
Recently, in this go,
Having a stroke
in
here.
this go around. So it's been proposed to opera appropriations. It's been proposed as a foreign item, and it's on that capital list.
And Matt tried to put it in the budget.
And it's been, tried to squeeze it into the budget somewhere, so. But we're,
So what was the second thing? ARPA
opera, warrant item,
warrant?
a standalone warrant item out of free cash. Capital, which is on capital now, and a budget. I believe it belongs in the budget, just like the police cruisers, and then it takes all this pain out of it. It becomes part of their operating costs, just like the police cruisers are.
I don't think it's gone to a warrant yet. It would be.
No, it's just, these are the avenues in which they approached. Nothing's been agreed upon as of yet. It's just, so I guess what you can get out of that is the strong desire or need for their cruiser is why they keep pursuing all these different avenues in which to go.
Say cruiser.
Command vehicle. No, but it's like I've said it before, I've said it in the selectmen's meeting, I think I've said it here. Each person that comes up is passionate about their own thing, and so this is just another example of pushing for something that they feel is very important for their department.
And ARPA is,
Opera has been extinguished,
so you've used all that money
pretty much.
and none for the command vehicle for fire?
There's a very small residual amount in there that's left off for unforeseen things, I would think. That's what it's going to be used for. But the bulk of it, the remaining bulk of it got used for the water line out on the street. We use a few different things that we did. One was the HVAC system at the fire department. We used it for that, so. In my opinion, got put to good use, but that could be argued, I guess.
They're all needs.
Well, yeah, it's like I said, everybody's passionate about what their needs are, and the difficult part is trying to figure out, and unfortunately, I don't get to escape it any more than this guy does, because he's got to deal with it on finance. I deal with it here and on the select board, so. Anything else for Kelly on the cruiser, command vehicle? No.
So it goes by, Kelly, which kind of chief are you?
I'm the assistant fire chief.
Okay, and then the associate is the third one?
No?
So I'm a full-time fire chief, and Chief Kent is a full-time fire chief, and then John Furno's a deputy, part-time on-call. So he kind of just works in an operational role for us, or he comes out when he can.
And what's his title?
Deputy fire chief.
Deputy.
We good on command vehicle? 1, 3, 5, whatever? Yeah, okay. Okay, Kelly.
So the ambulance is the next item, and in discussing with the chief, both of our ambulances are in relatively good condition. One has about 60,000 miles on it, ambulance 1, which is a 2018 model year, and then ambulance 2 is a 2019 model year, which when that was purchased, we actually got $100,000 from Senator Fatman's office to help offset the cost of that truck. So we're kind of been in a good position where the two vehicles have been able to rotate and they've gotten even wear. Now, looking into the future, we're trying to put a gap between the two of them so they won't have to be replaced back to back. If you look at the second handout I gave you, I put together how they would be ordered and when they would show up. So unfortunately, if we ordered an ambulance right now, we might not see it, probably wouldn't see it for 30 months. And the funding source for this, again, comes out of the ambulance budget, and the ambulance continues to accrue money as we go down the road. So we can order it, we're still going to continue to accrue money, and then we'll pay for it in 30 months. So the question is, how do we offset the two of them? And I think that's going to be kind of difficult, particularly based on the fact that we order them now, they're so many years out, and you can see in the middle column, I proposed ordering, say we ordered new A1 this July 1st. We wouldn't see it until, and the calendar years and the fiscal years sort of commingle here, we wouldn't see it until halfway through fiscal year 27, December 2026. And for purposes of discussion with the cruisers, I put the lease purchase of the cruiser because the funding source would be the same here, but to just show how all that money in those purchases would line up. In chatting with the chief, we believe that we can go out another year with ordering an ambulance, so that would push this out another year, and ultimately, like you can see at the bottom, A1 would be 9 years old by the time we received a delivery replacement, and A2 would be 9 to 10 years old, and they'd probably have a separation of about 2 years between the two of them, which actually, I know we talked about 5 years. 2 years isn't the end of the world because it allows them to evenly wear, and they're very close to the same age, so you don't end up with one very old truck and one new truck and one that's got a ton of problems and is always out of service, and then we're running the wheels off the first one. So I think it's less of a concern that we gap that out than maybe we previously thought.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said about the wearing and stuff like that. From a budgetary standpoint, it's a problem.
It is.
So we've talked about this, I think it was through it could have been conversation that I just had, because I keep digging into all this foolish stuff so I can have my head around it. So you either need to short cycle the rotation of the vehicle, or you gotta try to extend it out. Extending it out is a dangerous thing to do, because if it doesn't make it, it doesn't make it. How old was the ones that and they were in pretty tough shape, I get that, but how old were they, you remember?
They were probably 10, 11, 12, 13 years old,
Yeah,
but
so-
what you have to remember with those is those were run as the primary ambulance. There wasn't a second one being run in a rotation with it, or if there was, it was seldom run because it was always broken down.
Yeah,
So these ones, we might be able to push a little bit longer because they can be evenly rotated.
because you're not gonna, so the last ambulances they bought, one was 238,000, the other one's 241,000.
Is that mileage, or is
No,
that? what do they
the cost of it, so, the 228-23, you had approximately 317,000 in the budget. Last year, at the end of the year, fiscal year '22, you had 473,000. The year before, 444, 411, 388, 412, 311. And the reason why I bring this up is, let's assume they were the 240, which they're not, because Adam's already told us that his vehicles went up 50,000, so these aren't gonna be far behind it. Let's use the 240, double it's 480. We've never had 480 in there, and to try to recover after you buy one to get to the next one in 2 years, I don't know if you get that kind of receipt growth. Looking at this, it fluctuates up and down, so you never know.
The other thing,
It's up.
the other thing I'll tell you is we're more aggressively pursuing collections. I don't know how fruitful that's going to be, and we're also looking in the summer to rebid the ambulance contract to try to bring in some more revenue, but those are two projects we're working on to try to, get those receivables.
Yeah. As I look through this, just for your own benefit, it's just from a business standpoint, because that's where my head runs.
I got you.
So I look at how we're gonna purchase these things and sustain the growth of the account. So, and you're already working on that, which is greatly appreciated. The downside of that is if our economy does do any negative downturn, the frequency of payment will be less than what you're seeing
Possibly.
now, because people don't pay their bills if they don't have money, so. But anyway, it's just a consideration, it's just, that's what this is all about, just so we can think about it. Trying to get a little more separation out of that. As I had this conversation with Jean, she said, well, we got one in 2019 and got one in 2020 because we had an earmark grant. I said, Jim, but that hurt you. What do you mean? Well, because you lost your stagger. So now you gotta struggle to you're gonna have to short cycle it or something to get it up. I don't think pushing them out too far is a dangerous game to play, because
It might take a few cycles of purchasing.
right, no, it's gonna take a little bit to
Yeah.
get that spread.
I think we can get 2.5 years, though, and get halfway through that
2.5,
gap.
3 years, that will help you.
Yeah.
If you can start.
And this reflects 2 years.
5 or 6 years apart, then that would be a good thing. What me personally, I would prefer not to do anything with that special stabilization account other than buying the big apparatuses, because that's a large number that really hurts this committee and wipes out any smaller purchases. So we need to stay focused with that.
We may be able to, consider grabbing a little portion of that money, because again, the cost of an ambulance is a quarter of what a fire truck might be, depending on which fire truck we replace.
If you I'm just warning you.
Yeah.
It's up to town vote.
No,
I'm just warning you, but if you do anything other than what it was intended for, you're gonna fit. It's just the same thing with the ambulance receipts. If we took ambulance receipts and bought the command vehicle, you're doing something other than what you intended that for. So then that would hurt you on your stagger, because now you're 60,000 short or whatever the number happens to be. things that I say, I just put it out there, so it's not to convince anybody or talk about something, it's just,
But the command
Think about
vehicle has been purchased out of ambulance receipts in the past, so that
Don't
isn't
say
something
that.
we're making,
Don't tell anybody that.
yeah,
it's history.
I have a question.
yes.
So is there money in the ambulance fund now?
As of right now, as of February 28th, you had $317,873.63, and you still have a few months left of the,
317,800?
317,873.63,
And that says February,
February 28th. See, if you look at the total, it gives you a false positive. You look at it right now, it has $700 and some odd $1,000 in there. You're like, oh, Gene doesn't move it until a certain point, and then on July 1st, it's reappropriated again. So that 740 that was there last year basically is wiped out. This is the receipts that they've collected throughout the year so far. 370 gets put towards the wages in the ambulance.
Now that makes a difference.
Excuse me?
That makes a difference.
Well, that's where that money's going, so it's not going anywhere else, but it's trying to support that. Is it an enterprise fund, or is that just the,
Oh, it totally supports the ambulance, so
yeah, but is it called an enterprise fund or no?
I guess if we want to put that label on it, Gene would.
I don't want to put any label on it because I'll be in trouble with Gene, so.
Technically, the definition of an enterprise fund,
Yeah.
but I don't know if we're calling it that.
Yeah, but it's like a standalone little fund that the ambulance receipts come in, and then it helps offset the wages plus purchase the ambulances.
Okay.
now are you saying, is that included as free cash after July 1st?
No,
Nope, that stays
So
in
it
that,
stays
that
in
stays
that.
in ambulance receipts. You-
So, but you were saying there were 700 and blah, blah, as of,
As of July 1st of last year, there was $740,000 in there, but 370 was already voted on to cover this year's receipts, and then this July 1st, another 370 will get transferred. It's very confusing, it's like a shell game with it, it took me a few minutes to get my head around it.
You're talking, that goes towards the wages of the.
That's only used for the wages, so what's actually in that account
Yeah.
is 317,873.63 cents. That's what's actually in that unappropriated money in that account. Or
and you're,
whatever,
Kelly, you were saying
encumbered,
that you're going
encumbered amount, I guess.
to be looking at the reimbursement or something like that, that you're asking for, if you take me for a ride in the ambulance, and is the cost correct for, covering all your costs?
it depends on your insurance, depends on what we did, how much the bill is, how far we drove you. So there's a lot of factors that influence how much money we make from it. 80% of our payers are contracted payers, which means that we get a set amount of money no matter what. So Medicare and Medicaid, for example. So just because we bill it doesn't mean we're going to collect all that we billed. And right now, our collection rate's somewhere between 35 and 40% of what we bill out. And that's because 80% of our payers are contracted payers. That's the type of people we're picking up in the ambulance.
So technically, the town should pick up 20%, right? Is that what you're saying?
Technically, the
Or
town,
the user, the
Yes.
ambulance user should pick up
Yes.
20%?
well, no, I'm just saying 20% of the users have insurance that will pay the whole bill. 80% have insurance that pays part of the bill. And then they may be expected to pick up the rest. Whether they pay it or not is another story.
And out of that 80%, there's people that don't even have insurance.
Correct, there's self-pay people who don't pay at all, but some of those people do pay, and we have set up payment plans or other arrangements with them to collect those funds. So we're working harder to do that, but again, that takes time and energy, and our admin only works 30 hours a week, so it's a lot of extra to do with the limited hours.
So even though Kelly's putting a request on the capital, which he has, anything over a useful life over 5 years, over $10,000, has to go to capital, but the funding source would be proposed to come out of the ambulance receipts.
And I'd really like to, before we, I know the way the ambulance account kind of works and when and where the money gets transferred, I would like to review that with Gene, just so we have a really good firm handle on those
Right.
numbers.
Yep. Yeah, you're going to have to figure that out because you'll have to
Yeah.
present it, obviously. But I just wanted to help everybody else get their head around it because we're struggling with funds as they're figuring out where our budgets are. But this, even though it's a capital item, it's a separate funding source from free, other than free cash. If we did short cycle it 2 years apart, there's a potential that it could be part of it ambulance receipts and part of it as free cash. If the funds weren't there. to
I
cover
think
it.
it's going to take 2 cycles, though, to get out of,
No, I mean, I meant short cycle, so if your receipts were less than what the cost is.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to supplement. Yeah, it's going to take you 2 or 3
Yeah.
cycles to get spread out where you would be comfortable with it.
Kelly, I have a question. I'm just looking at the spreadsheet of your budget. 54,800 is called Vehicle Support Supply, SUPP. Any idea? That
That would be
has,
supplied, probably, right?
it's only $2,000 and change, but what is that? Do you remember?
So it's probably vehicular supplies, and basically it's things that would go with a vehicle, like windshield wipers or certain fluids, DEF, small parts for the vehicles that we could replace ourselves, like air filters, supplies to wash vehicles, supplies to clean vehicles.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that road with this stuff because that's more of a finance.
Yeah, I was just looking to see.
No, I know that, but
If they had anything.
the rest of the committee doesn't have that, and nor should they. And I don't want to put Kelly in a position to try to answer off the cuff.
It's like another maintenance sort of line
Okay.
item.
It's outside of what our purview is.
So what else?
But no, I'm just waiting to make sure that everybody's comfortable with what Kelly's giving you for answers and the discussion about the ambulances. If you don't have anything else on that, Kelly, you move on to your next topic if you have one.
Sure, so forestry replacement equipment. So as you know, we are getting a new forestry truck. With that being said, we have a 5,900 acre state forest. We have many homes that are on the edge of wooded areas, and we respond to a fair amount of serious brush fires every year. Also, the tendency, if you look at wildfire data in the state, we have fewer brush fires in Douglas than other areas with the same amount of wooded area, yet our fires are more severe and we burn more acres. And right now, yes, we have that new truck coming, but we need more equipment and we need to replace more equipment in order to adequately address that risk. So one of our proposed solutions for addressing that risk would be to take our F-350 pickup truck that we're going to be removing the skid unit and pump that isn't working very well for us anymore. It's about 25 to 30 years old. It was constructed in the late 90s, and replacing that with a brand-new skid unit in that truck. That truck is a 2007 model. It's got about 15,000 miles on
Are
it.
you allowed to do that per your grant application?
Yes.
Yeah.
So replacing it with a new skid unit, which would be anywhere from $15,000 to maybe $22,000, depending on what we would get. And I think that would be very important to have another small brush truck in our fleet that could make entry into the state forest and other tight areas that some of the larger tanker trucks we've had in the past just can't go, especially because those old cart paths aren't really maintained very well. The DCR has limited funding to maintain those. So that would be another way for us to get more water and personnel into a fire and mitigate it before it becomes a big problem and maybe affects transmission, roadways and other, infrastructure in town.
Do we get any support out of DCR for this?
There's some very small grants that are about $2,000 that help us replace some personal protective equipment, but other than that, no. With,
Yes, oh,
Yep.
sorry.
What sort of equipment does the state have up at Walton Lake?
So they have a seasonal crew where they usually have 2 to 4 personnel that are available, but they're also on call for this whole central Mass area. So if another community has a fire, they're going to send that very small crew out to help, but it's one truck with 4 guys. Most,
Only one truck, and that's the thing that you would supplement too.
we would get another one, so the town of Douglas would have another one to put people in, and we could just get our own people on the ground faster and in more places than just one. Along with this project, we'd also be looking to put a small skid unit into the back of our utility terrain vehicle, which is our like drivable four-wheeler, for those who aren't familiar with the concept of a UTV. I think everyone probably is living out here in the country. Don't want to dumb it down too much, but it would be about a 50-gallon water tank with a small pump and riding position for 2 or 3 people and some hand tools. And that piece of apparatus would also contain the purchase of a new floating pump. So we'd like to purchase 2 or 3 floating pumps. They're about $3,000 to $4,000 a piece. We used to have 2, we're now down to 1. It's probably 30 years old, an old 2-stroke motor that's really loud. It needs to be replaced, but it enables us to go into the middle of the state forest, drop that pump into one of the water holes that were constructed for firefighting purposes back in the 1930s, and get some water onto a fire out in the middle of the woods where no other water source might exist. So get one of those on to the UTV, the new brush truck, and our former brush truck F-350. So those 3 projects, I call them projects, but 3 floating pumps, a skid unit for the pickup, and a skid unit for the UTV would be around $40,000. But it would be cheaper than buying another used vehicle or trying to purchase a new vehicle, because the new one we just bought is $250,000.
Where would you store all this stuff?
So I think what we would, most of it, the UTV is stored under our roof right now. We only have room for 1 brush truck, but we also have a bay down at Cottage Street that's open because we got rid of one of the tankers that was down there. So in the winter, we would just either take the whole skid unit out and store it in Cottage Street and then have the pickup truck outside up at the firehouse, or we could just leave it down at Cottage Street because it's heated, and they just did some upgrades to the heating system in that building. So not much would change there. We're not adding to our fleet.
Anybody have anything on the forestry equipment? That was a good explanation. I didn't know what it was that you wanted.
Yeah.
I'd just seen the line item forestry equipment. I'm like,
Yeah, it's kind of vague, but all the little
Yep.
pieces fit together. It just enhances our fleet. And then I can talk about the bay doors if nobody has questions about. We good to go?
You good? Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
So bay doors, when our building was built, the bay doors they weren't required by the code to have any safety features. So if you have a newer garage door at home, you'll notice there's the 2 eyes, which prevents you from putting the door down onto a piece of equipment or yourself. Our bay doors, with the exception of one that's been upgraded, currently has no safety features. So the doors have gone down onto trucks before, onto pieces of equipment. Luckily, we've never had them fall onto a person, but that certainly could happen. You could literally push the button and put the door down on your foot if you weren't paying attention, and that's not really a good thing to have in a fire station in 2023. With that being said, too, we're trying to be more energy efficient and keep the heat in our building, and all the weather stripping is essentially gone on these doors. Our building's 23 years old, so all that needs to be replaced. And then we've had instances of the tensioner springs, and forgive me, I'm not a garage door mechanic, but those letting go, so we'd like to replace those with fresh ones and put in the safety features. So the total to do that project, $10,870. We were quoted by the company that currently does all our garage door maintenance.
10,800 for all of them?
$10,870,
Yeah,
yes.
because the quote that came through the first time was at 100,000 for,
Yeah, that's what
for
I,
the 8 doors. No, it said 100,000.
Maybe it was for the
So
replacement of the doors, but
I don't know what it was for, but it said 8,000 because, 100,000, and so I asked how many doors we had, and they said 8. Well, Kent said 8, so that's fine. 10,800 for the upgrade of the doors, bay door,
Well, when Kent brought his things, he said $50,000 here, so it went down, I guess.
well, it changed, it was 100, and then it was 50, now it's 10. So what I'm just, for my own self, I'm just telling you what I'm putting safety upgrades to the doors, so that way I can identify what it is, instead of door replacements.
I think at one time there was discussion of totally replacing the bay doors, which, given all the other needs that we have and other departments have, I think this is a better option.
And that's for all 8 doors, the
Yeah.
10,800?
Yes, and actually in talking to, when I talked to these folks, I asked, do we need to replace all the springs? And he said, probably not, you can probably wait till they fail, but we'll put 2 in on the quote, and 2 of the ones that haven't been done, replaced, as they've broken, we'll replace those, so, yeah, I have the quote here, $10,870. So,
and that's, excuse me, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
and that's also the eyes to make sure they don't come down on it.
that's the big part of this project, that's really important, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with sensor eyes, they specified it in the,
Yep.
Yeah, when the sensorizing would probably be, probably have to change the openers themselves, so they would be pressure sensitive, so if they
Yeah.
came down on the hood of the truck or something.
yeah.
Sends it back up.
This way they don't have the remote and the door, next door goes down.
Yeah, something as silly as that, though, with the
No,
truck
it
being-
did happen,
No, I know it happened, I was there.
yeah.
Yep. It was pouring rain, too. Great.
I was there.
Anybody else have anything on the doors for Kelly? Nope. Anything else?
That's really it for FY '24, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, I appreciate the time.
So, let's talk about either fiscal year 28, 29 for the, what truck would be up next? I want to get under that 5-year rotation for your truck, so I want to talk about that now. I don't want to wait until 28 to try to figure out which truck it is, so
So realistically,
knowing what you know today, I know it changes tomorrow.
Engine 2 is likely going to be the next one up for replacement. It's a 2001 International. It's our tanker truck. It carries 2,500 gallons of water. It's used more frequently than I'd say our ladder truck, which is a 2006. That's in very good condition. So that would be the next one up for replacement. Chief Vincent has it on for FY '25. Depending on how we have to replace ambulances and other things, like all these items are getting stacked in here.
It'll be a challenge to get that done. So
That's the next one.
looking out at 28, 20, and 29, it would be the 2001 International.
Yes.
What's today's value of that? I'm just curious.
I'm thinking $450,000 to $500,000.
Yeah, so you're going to be close to that. So where we'll have the biggest challenge in this committee, if any of us are still there at that point, when the ladder truck gets changed. 2 years ago, I was working down in Harwich, and they had just bought a ladder truck with the Quint, I guess, is the, what's that, a pump that's on it. They just replaced it. It was $1,080,000. So by the time this one comes up, that $500,000 is going to be short, but at least it'll help during the process. That's the one vehicle that they have that is going to greatly exceed our proposed stabilization account.
So Mike, Are we talking still about 2001 being replaced in 2025? Because that's what's on this sheet.
That's what's on the sheet from Ken Vincent. I'm speaking for myself. Realistically, I don't see that happening. The goal of that, and it was 2 years of conversations, and Chief Vincent was a big part of that. And for this to be successful for their department to achieve their replacements in which they need them, and also help this committee so we can continue to keep fixing things. We can't, every 5 years, we can't stop all capital and push everything aside and then start all over again. That was the motivation behind creating that. So, time will tell, obviously, but the more life we can get out of that truck, even if it lasts another 2 or 3 years, you're only looking basically at a plow truck versus a $750,000 fire truck that we did last year coming out of capital. So I don't see where we would have enough money in there next year, because we already have 125. The oil tanks are almost a given at the school unless something else, some other strategy comes up for that. You have the HVAC system at the post office. You have the HVAC system here, which we got surprised, and it went up another $115,000. The first floor electrical is on this one. Post office painting per contract, we have to do that. That's on there. The highway loader is on that one. The architectural rendering, engineering for this building is on there. This storage vault's on there, which that will probably drop off, but that's only showing at $10,000. Oh, that's for the design work. And then we had the $100,000 for stabilization, the special stabilization account on there, and we're still at $1,275,000. But we're gonna have an interesting week next week, trying to figure out how we maneuver all these things.
Yeah.
There'll be, I'll be looking to you, Kelly, to try to talk to whoever you need to talk to, whether it's Mattagene or whatever, for the ambulance, to see how we plug those in, even though it's coming out of those receipts, how we address it, because we can get it on the list if we have a separate funding source. That's easy enough, but to come up with a good strategy that helps your department. Any questions?
I have, not a question.
No, good. Comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'd like to have something on a future agenda for, I ended up reading through the capital bylaw.
Yeah.
Fascinating reading.
Yeah.
But I think $10,000 is a little low for the minimum amount for a capital request. And it says in the bylaw that the committee can change that easily.
I'd have to read through it, but if it's a bylaw, then that would be town meeting, just as.
No, it isn't. It says
Okay.
right in the bylaw.
Before you raise your voice and tell me what it is, all I said was I would need to read through that and make sure, and I would check with town council. I wouldn't just assume. We went through with building and facilities, that was a $10,000 limit, then it got changed to a $50,000 limit to coincide with what state bylaws were. So we could check into it and see what it is, but it'd be interesting to see that a committee could just change that threshold amount.
Yeah, well, that's the way
Yeah.
the bylaw reads. It also has in there that it's a useful life of 4 years, and you had mentioned today 5 years.
Yeah.
And
Because I was repeating what was said at multiple meetings,
And
so.
I think the reason why I looked all this up was because I was reading through the police request. And TASER sounds like an operating thing. It doesn't sound like a capital expense that it has a, it just sounds like something you need. And then I got thinking of today, I guess, about the $360,000 plus $360,000 for the highway. Again, that's an operating expense. That's,
What, the 360,000 for the Chapter 90?
yeah.
Is it?
Well, no, that's Chapter 90, but then capital, it should be coming from the town, not from capital. I think that all the work that they're doing with that $720,000 is operational. It's not a capital thing.
Okay, so
So that's a future,
No,
discussion.
let me just, don't shut me off. Let me answer what you just said. So after you get past all the budget stuff, and Mr. Vandenberg can correct me since he plays on that end of the sandbox, after you get past all our operational expenses, whatever it is, right, all our needs and stuff, it's free cash that's left over. So you can take that 360 and you can put it into their budget. It's just going to decrease our free cash. So then instead of having 1.1 million, we might have 700,000. It's still the same thing, but I personally don't necessarily agree that's the operational thing, because if you turn around and what happens after the roads are all fixed, which it's going to take 20 years or more, but let's assume that.
Will be gone.
Let's assume that they got fixed in 5 years. How do you get that 360,000 back
I wanted
out
to
of
put
there?
this on a future agenda. I didn't want to talk about it today. I don't think it's fair to other people on the committee if I'm just proposing it for a future agenda item before we get going on FY
So,
'25.
If we're going to do it, we're going to do it at a meeting after next week, because it's not going to become part of this. It's not fair to a department head that has to get back to work that we're
Yeah.
sitting here going back and forth on it, but anyways. But I will get clarification about the bylaw and the, whether or not we can raise the limit. What would be and I'm just curious, and I'll leave it alone after this one question. What would be the purpose of raising the limit? What's the benefit to it?
It's a capital expense. What capital item can you buy for $10,000, except for your, whatever it was?
Turnout gear.
Yeah, or the $10,800 thing
Yeah.
that you had, but there's not much around that is a capital expense. I think of it as more of a building type of thing, like highway garage and stuff.
Yep, so I don't know if we're both thinking of it the same way. So the $10,000 limit is to ensure oversight. So then you're not just spending $30,000 or $40,000 here, there, and everywhere, because the aggregate amount is going to be too high. And we had the same conversation in building and facilities a few years back. It just gives a little oversight to it, because otherwise you could be out of control really fast without answering any questions. So at what point, there's a lot of things. So say you raise it to 50,000, there's a lot of things you can buy for 49. So I don't know. Well, seriously, right?
Right.
So tasers are at 64,000, and that's actually something that'll probably be put into their budget anyways, the conversations that have been going back and forth. But because it's something that lasts over the period of time and the dollar amount, it has to come through the capital process. Unless it gets put into a full-time thing into their budget, similar to the police cruisers. And were you on a 2-year rotation for that? Every 2 years? You buy them
Yeah.
two every year for 3 years or something like that, and
I
then you
believe that's
skip
right.
some?
Yeah.
Right. Because there was conversation at a selectmen's meeting for car one, or command vehicle one, not a cruiser.
Cruiser one.
But car one is the title that they had, and because it had a potential of going 7 or 8 years, it couldn't be in their budget process. It had to be on a capital item because of the way the bylaw is written.
What, capital bylaw?
Yep, because of the useful life of it extended past that limit. And now I'm hesitant to say 5 years because you corrected me, you said 4, so now
Well, that's what
I get
follows.
no, I know, I gotta read it again. Hard to keep up with all these things, so.
Well, it's a good, sleepless night reading. Puts you right to sleep.
All right. You have anything else for us, Kelly?
The only thing I wanted to remark that engine 2 could possibly get pushed out to FY '27, but the repair costs are just absolutely mounting with that truck, so the longer we keep it in the rotation, we're going to be spending anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a year to keep that piece on the road, I'm guessing.
But you could pick up 85 to 90,000 a year in waiting, a year, and just
It could.
the difference between the two, that's
We
all.
also lost a bunch of money out of our maintenance budget this year with the compensation reform too, so we'll just have to go down the road.
That'd be an argument for that office and this guy's committee.
Yeah,
Okay. Just send a couple guys over here who are.
All right, anything else?
no,
No.
thank
No,
you.
you don't have to cover yours. I'm only going to give Ben a hard time. He's playing with the volume
I was
next to me.
trying,
I was trying to find a dump truck.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Take care. Thank you. Yep.
We have two different sets of meeting minutes, February 13th, February 21st.
I don't think I have them. Let me
Yeah,
look.
we gave you, they came with a
It was in the one
agenda.
that, well, there's an extra copy that I left over there.
Yeah, and I was just going to put it in my recycle
Well,
paper place at
Yeah,
home.
it's recycled them to Shirley.
Yeah, see? It's,
I have not had the opportunity to read them.
okay, well, I'll let you have those then.
Especially for this committee, it may make sense that we do our minutes first,
What?
at the beginning of the meeting versus the end, because now we're going to go over all these things that we just talked about at
Yeah.
February 13th.
Are you going
No,
to
no.
proceed and,
No, we're going to finish these minutes. I'm just saying in the future. You want to do them, we can do them tomorrow.
I would prefer to.
Okay, take them home, read them, and we'll do them
I
tomorrow
mean,
because.
how's everybody else feel? I haven't had the
What-
opportunity
Yeah,
to
no,
read
you
them.
haven't, and you got to do your spell check, and you got.
No, she is the spell check.
That's what I'm saying. So if everybody could hold on to their minutes until tomorrow,
Thank you.
so that way we don't have to
Yep,
donate to the recycling bin at somebody else.
my house.
And so tomorrow we're doing,
Tomorrow we're going to do the library, the school,
town clerk
and the town clerk. Yep.
and
Oh, actually, I have
police.
my list right
And
here.
police,
And police, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Police only has the tasers that are on there. They'll have an answer as to whether or not that's going to be put into the budget.
Yep.
Trying to understand that, I don't want to do.
I will not be here tomorrow. I have one more project with Marcus Communications.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're good.
so who's coming to present the police stuff, not you?
That will be the chief.
Either be the chief or the lieutenant that would do that, I would think.
Thank you.
So if nobody has anything else and they can hold off all their thoughts until tomorrow, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Vandenberg, seconded by Mrs. Chesbro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.